And once again, the older millennial is flat out lying to the people who follow him on social media.
Okay, so I guess it falls to me to tell him.
Here's an idea. Why don't we start requiring real IDs, birth certificates, passports, etc. to buy a gun?
Fine, I'll tell him. Buddy, it does. You do need that to purchase a firearm. You also need a background check, which includes a criminal history check. And you also have to sign off on forms that say you don't have any mental disorders, which if you lie on, can be a felony. You know what? While we're at it, let's defeat some of these other fucking gun buying myths. Like, let's go to the firearm capital of the country, Texas. Can you purchase a firearm in Texas without a background check? No. Can you get around that by buying the firearm online? No, because the firearm that you order online has to get delivered to a gun dealer, and you can pick it up from them after you do the background check. Now, do you need a permit to purchase a firearm in Texas? No, you don't, but you do need a valid ID as well as that background check. Now, can anybody from anywhere just walk in and buy a firearm? No, you have to be a resident. Now, what about that gun show loophole everybody talks about? Well, if you buy a firearm at a gun show, it still has to go through a licensed dealer, and you still need a background check. Oh, and you also need an ID, and you have to be a resident. So yeah, buddy, we require all that.
See, he was actually doing well. He was talking about the various laws that exist in Texas if you buy a gun from a federally licensed firearm dealer. And then he got to the end about the gun show loophole, and he flat out lied to the people that follow him. He said, can you buy a gun without a background check at a gun show? No, you can't. Yes, you can. He flat out lied to you. Since he said Texas, let's deal with Texas. Background check procedures in Texas. Federal law requires federally licensed firearm dealers, but not private sellers, to initiate a background check on the purchaser prior to sale of a firearm. Federal law provides states with the option of serving as a state point of contact and conducting their own background checks using state as well as federal records and databases, or having the checks performed by the FBI using the federal NICS system, the National Instant Criminal Background Check System. Texas is not a point of contact state for the NICS. Texas has no law requiring firearm dealers to initiate background checks prior to transferring a firearm. As a result, in Texas, firearm dealers must initiate a background check required by federal law by contacting the FBI directly. Federal law does not require dealers to conduct a background check if a firearm purchaser presents a state permit to purchase or possess firearms that meet certain conditions. As a result, handgun license holders in Texas are exempt from the federal background check requirement when purchasing a handgun. Texas does not require private sellers to initiate background check when transferring a firearm. So what the elder millennial told his followers was a flat-out lie. And you don't have to believe me. Here's a lawyer from Texas telling it to you.
Texas gun shows loophole to the background check. You may have heard in Texas at a gun show, you don't need to pass a background check. That's not exactly true. What actually happens at gun shows is there are dealers that are selling firearms. They're federally firearm licensed dealers. And then there are citizens that can rent a table and sell their collection or whatever they have. If you go to a gun show in Texas and you buy from a dealer inside that gun show, then you still have to pass that background check. If you go buy from a private citizen who happened to rent that table and sell their collection, you do not have to pass a background check.
I think this is important to understand. If you follow the older millennial on any social media platform, you have to understand he is lying to you. It's what he does. See, he knows that in your mind, you need to hear somebody say, no, you can't just walk into a gun show and buy a gun without passing a background check, even though he knows that's untrue. So he tells you the lie because that's what you already think. Then you go, yeah, he's right. And then you like it, you comment, you maybe stitch it or duet it to say, look at how right he is, and you share it, and it helps him grow. Now, it's a wise move on his part as far as a business move, because that's how he's going to make his money, right? I just find it grotesque that he's willing to make his money by being known as the man who lies every time he opens his fucking mouth, which he just did in that video. He flat out lied to you. Or, and listen, there's another option here. Either he flat out lied to you, which is what I believe he's doing, or he's literally stupid enough to believe that you can't walk into a gun show and buy a gun from a private dealer right now in the state of Texas without passing a background check, which you can. You can't. Listen, that's not to say that that private seller, you might actually run into a private seller that has integrity, and that private seller might look at that person and say, yeah, I'll sell you all the guns you want. As soon as you pass a background check, if you haven't already passed a background check, there are places here where you can run a background check, but maybe the private seller has some integrity and initiates it himself, but there's a reason why it's called the gun show loophole. It exists. And it's odd that he picks Texas when it's so easily verifiable that you can walk into a gun show in Texas and buy from a private dealer without passing a background check. You can. It's just a fact of life. But he needs you to believe otherwise so he can make money off of your stupidity.